right, let's bring you some analysis now. Tax expert and columnist Barbara Curson is in studio with me. Her experience includes a stint at the South African Revenue Service. She's here to help us unpack some of the challenges facing the newly installed Commissioner of SARS, Edward Kieswetter, and his plans to turn SARS around and gain the public's trust. Of course, the other big issues coming out of the briefing, of course, is the tax threshold that has now gone up to 500,000 Rand from 350,000 Rand. Perhaps that's the starting point, Barbara. Your views on that?
That's a good thing. It will save SARS time, so at least people have to file. But as long as SARS, understands that, about a year ago there was a problem when SARS started going after people who had never filed because they were really below the threshold. And I personally know someone who spent about 3 days at the Randburg office trying to sort it out. So, but that is a good thing to up the threshold now, but as long as the whole of SARS understands that. But of course, by upping the threshold, you'll always get those who will try and split the income to come below the threshold. So that would always be a risk. But then again, those are small amounts.
Yeah. Let's touch on returning tax morality at SARS. You and I were listening to that media briefing, in particular the questions that came during the Q&A session. You've been at SARS, or you were at SARS, for 20 years,
yes,
having started back in 1996. You must have seen the decline in tax morality. I want to ask of you, when did that start? In which period?
Well, when I joined in 96, SARS again had to start turning itself around and making taxpayers compliant. And then under Pravin Gordhan, we saw this upsurge in tax compliance. There was an improvement in staff morale, in the tax experts that SARS was actually employing. But then I must say, under Tomoyani, there was an absolute decline where people started leaving in droves for various reasons, through unhappiness, through being told they can't apply for a more senior position. After I left, someone I worked closely with, who was an absolute tax expert, was told that he could not apply for my position, so he immediately resigned. But so many people across SARS, in the IT departments, across audits, in specialized audit, they started leaving. I think it's going to be very hard to encourage people like that to join SARS, and I think that's going to be a difficult task for Edward Kieswetter.
It's interesting that you speak about the SARS staff morale issue, because listening to the Commissioner, he talks about by Monday next week he will have met 80%
Yes.
of the staff. I think he's doing what is perhaps called the listening exercise,
Yes,
to find out exactly where people are, but also tell them where he stands, as he says, on important topical matters. Importantly, I'd like to go back to what you said. Tomoyane comes in and there's a low staff morale. There's the argument that the demographic profile of people who left may have been white people, and black people inside SARS were actually lifted in terms of the tax morale and also their importance. Is that what was happening there, or perhaps are reports that we read a little suspect?
I think for me that's a very difficult topic to actually discuss live. It's really hard to say. I think SARS lost some very highly skilled black staff as well. But without having figures in front of me, it's very difficult to discuss that. A lot of whites had been there for a long time, had reached retirement age. I, for example, was a contract. So I had no retirement age attached to my contract. I'd worked on a contract for 20 years, often without contract. But it was very easy for Moyani to then not extend my contract. But a lot of people were in any event retiring. But was SARS hiring young whites? That's a difficult question to answer. I don't think they were. I think they had a policy of, if you're white, we will not employ you. If you're white, we will not promote you. And in fact, that is why my colleague left.
Talk to us about what it is exactly that Tom Moyane did at SARS. We've heard the Nugent inquiry. It's come and gone. It made its recommendations. He's now gone. What is it that he did to hollow out that institution? You were there. You at least served under him for 3 years.
I think he came in with this air of mistrust, where he didn't trust anyone. He changed his officers. There were very few people at that stage that he dealt with. Jonas Makwakwa was at that stage his trusted confidant. Moyane started hiring people and appointing them in top positions. Many of those
people?
In my view, not. Perhaps I'm prejudiced. But I've always said, test them, test their knowledge of the Income Tax Act, test them for what they're supposed to be doing. And I think we would be surprised. Various people were appointed into positions where, in my view, they were not competent to hold those positions. And again, test them.
Barbara, I want to, as a final thought now, the Commissioner talks about taking very seriously the reports coming out of the Zondo Commission. The Nugent report says that he's going to take those recommendations very seriously. Quick question to you. Does he have what it takes? You mentioned off-air that you've worked under him before.
Yes, I think Edward Kesfeta is the right person. He has very, very high standards, and he will expect that. He will also expect the SARS staff to regain their passion for the work and for the higher purpose. You know, that came from Pravin Gordhan, where he instilled in every single person in SARS that you're working there for a higher purpose. That was lost under Tom Moyane, but I really think that under Edward Kesfeta, that will come back. I can see him...
of the Moyane era? Do you think they're still there? And
yes.
That'd be difficult for him to navigate?
Yes, they're still there.
How much?
I can't say. But there are people in high positions who are still there.
Interesting times. Thank you very much, Barbara Curson. Thank you very much for joining us. She's a former senior manager, in particular within the tax avoidance unit that is at SARS. You were there for that time. Thanks indeed for your time. And of course, right now she is a tax expert and a columnist.